Okay, here we are live again, Leadership Live. We took a little bit of a break getting ready for the holidays, and we're excited for Thanksgiving. And that is why we're talking about one of our favorite topics, appreciation, today. One of our partners, Karen Miller, shared a Huberman Lab podcast episode about gratitude, which is similar to appreciation. Maybe we'll get into that a little bit today. That was really interesting about how to use appreciation neurologically, physiologically to improve your health, improve your mental health, reduce anxiety, things like that. But we think there's a lot more to it. So, welcome back, Nick. Excited to dig into this topic. Any first thoughts on appreciation? Maybe a definition?
Yeah, I'm glad to be back. I think appreciation it's the act of saying thank you, of recognizing and I Huberman starts to talk about, and I think that's where some of the distinction between gratitude and appreciation starts to come in. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think we conflate gratitude and appreciation. Am I coming through for you? You're a little bit broken up there for me.
Say that one more time. Sorry.
Can you hear me now?
What?
Can you hear me now? I
Yep,
don't
I gotcha.
appreciate Riverside. It is truly the most awful thing, I've ever seen. So, but we'll get past it. Okay, you can hear me now.
Yep, I gotcha.
Awesome. Yeah, I think we conflate gratitude and appreciation. If you look up the definition, gratitude is more of being thankful for something, like you did something for me. And so I will express thankfulness or gratitude. And that's great. I grew up writing thank you notes. That's gratitude. Appreciation, you can have appreciation of beauty and art. You can have appreciation of a good song. And I think you can have appreciation of the qualities of a person. I think that's really important in a business. What did you think about the Huberman Lab podcast? That's what we're here to talk about a little bit today.
Yeah, I thought it was super interesting. And I love a lot of his stuff because he does dive into the science behind it. So his background is in neurosciences and like that deep psychology. So he had a lot of papers and a lot of science behind what's happening in the brain when someone says something to you. So I think that was interesting. I think he talked a lot about the difference between maybe like writing down lists of like things you appreciate versus the act of receiving versus giving appreciation. And I think that's something that we kind of briefly talked about when Karen brought this up to us. It's something that we had a full discussion on. Like he's saying you shouldn't be receiving, you need to be receiving feedback or appreciation for it to actually matter. And that was something that we were like, at first we're like, that, what does that mean? And I think the piece that I took out of it, something that I thought was super valuable from it, wasn't necessarily said, but a synthesis of what he was saying is, as leaders, it's important to note the fact that, hey, okay, I need to be giving appreciations to my team. We can't just go around the circle and be like, I want my team to say appreciations to me. As a leader, the act of appreciating someone is a selfless act. It is, hey, I appreciate you for what you're doing. So that ties into the science that Huberman was talking about when he said what he was saying was the brain impacts, the things where you see the brain light up in the MRIs when they were doing those, is when you are receiving that feedback, when someone is giving you the feedback. So the example he had was they had someone sit in a machine and someone read to them a letter that they had written appreciating them or showing gratitude to them. And that their brain lit up all the positive pieces of what that does for you. So like physiologically. There we go. whereas the person who was reading it out wasn't quite getting those same impacts. Um, so that was something that was super interesting to me, and we do go through the act of doing appreciations on all of our events all the time. Um, and I thought that was super interesting because that's something that we can put into practice. I think we already do. Um, and I guess my question for you was, and this is something as a guide I've always wondered, what was the thing that made you think to start doing that? So the background is for our events at the end of it, we go around and everyone gives an appreciation to something they learned during the event, someone who helped them during the event. We've used it as a way to bring it home and help people really appreciate what they did. Um, but where did that idea come from? How did you come up with that?
Yeah, I got to give credit where credit is due and say that that's something that I learned on my Knowles instructor course. So a lot, it's not like a institutional thing there, but a lot of instructors, and I think Knowles instructors are amazing, do that. And we do like the classic outdoor educator, rosebud thorn type stuff, which I have mixed feelings about. It can be useful. Sometimes it's a little cheesy, but the appreciation, just saying like, hey, I appreciate Nick for the diligence and initiative that he takes specifically on this project, because it was kind of lagging and he reached out and took the initiative and moved it forward. That was really helpful for the team, is really powerful. And so we kind of took it, and it has morphed over the years to be more and more specific. I think in the early days, and still we fight this, people will say, well, I really appreciate that beautiful sunset tonight. And it's like, well, that's cool, like, great, but give us something specific about someone here. And we kind of lucked into this. I think it wasn't like a, we read the science and it shows that appreciation helps you, which according to Huberman and all of the physiological stuff, it does help us. It, according to the studies that he was citing, makes us less anxious, makes us more pro-social, makes us more positive, which makes sense. If we're just simply noticing things that we're grateful for, we're going to be more positive. And if we're actively appreciating other people around us, other people are going to feel appreciated and like they belong and they're important in that group. But we really, when I frame appreciations as I'm guiding, I say, one, I tell people in the morning, I say, we're going to do this every day. And at the end of the trip, we're going to go around and appreciate each other. And it needs to be specific. And an example of that is, hey, when I picked up Tim, he had an article that he wanted to talk about, and I appreciate that kind of intellectual curiosity. It's really cool. It should be specific like that. If you want to share general, that's great too. Like you can talk about the sunset or whatever. And what has struck me as particularly constant and amazing is I see the group come together rapidly through those appreciations, and we don't structure it like, I want you to appreciate the person next to you or something like that, because you kind of like, a fear is, oh geez, like what if Nick is the only one that doesn't get appreciated, and that kind of sucks, and now we're making people feel bad. But it doesn't really happen, especially over the course of a whole event. Everybody gets appreciated for things, and things that I didn't see, that other people didn't see, and now we're surfacing these positive, pro-social, productive work behaviors, that other people didn't see, and now they do. Like, oh yeah, like Nick is the guy that takes initiative, and I see that too now because Knight talked about it. So long answer. Big props to Knowles and the work that they do, the National Outdoor Leadership School. And I think we've iterated on this concept and made it, it's a non-negotiable. When we collaborate with other people, other leadership development firms, most of the stuff, like as long as their curriculum is solid, great, we'll teach that. We're going to do appreciations at the end of the day because it works for all of those reasons. Um, how have you seen it? How have you seen it land when you're guiding with us?
Really well. And the piece of like, I appreciate you sending me the Radical Candor podcast showing appreciation makes work more fun, because I've noticed us do that, and those are the ones that actually have the biggest impact when they are specific and when they're sincere. And that sincerity part is something that I think is the absolute requirement of it. And Huberman talks about it in his as well. Of you can't lie to yourself about it. It can't be something that you're just like manufacturing. And when I heard that, I immediately thought of, to a military context, oh, the bloom where you're planted idea. Like appreciate where you're at, and just like go and enjoy it and to be happy where you're at. A lot of the times, if you're saying, "Oh, I'm blooming where I'm planted," you are totally lying here. Like it's not a sincere thought. Whereas, and you can pick apart ways to do that if you build up a methodology of like, hey, okay, I don't necessarily like the job, but I appreciate the people that I worked with today, or I appreciated that I learned something new today. And like I think that is ultimately the way that you make that kind of statement work. The thing that I value about when I guide, when we have events, is there's the sincerity is almost always there. And even if it's not initially there, I've seen a couple points clients come in where like there's a handful of people who are like, I didn't really want to do this. It was something someone set up for me. But by the nature of us doing things outdoors and having genuine conversations and talking about genuine things that people care about, that sincerity starts to really quickly come into play. And I think that makes the difference of when we get into appreciations and we're talking about those things, it's not like a just going through the motions thing. It's, hey, I genuinely really appreciated this. This was something that I really enjoyed. And that was something that I thought was awesome. And that's, I think, the difference of, and we've talked a lot in the past about why do we do things outside versus in a conference room. I think the outdoors is the situation that brings that automatic sincerity, you can appreciate the environment you're in already, like the minute you step into it, which is why we do sense of place discussions. So that sincerity, that focus is there, and that makes any of the discussions, any of the leadership development we're doing that much more pure. And I think that allows people to really think about that more deeply of, why am I doing this? What is important about this? And these people around me, these teammates that I have around me, what is it about them that I value? The best parts, the things that I've seen the best were like when you're belaying someone, like those are like awesome because they get down and it's like, I may hate you in the office, but like you definitely just kept me from slipping or falling or whatever else. So even no matter what your personal relationship is, hey man, thanks for holding that rope and keeping me safe. Like that was awesome. Thank you.
Keeping me alive.
That is a very specific and sincere appreciation, and it transcends whatever other interpersonal relationships that are going on. And that can apply to any of the other recreational type pieces of our events that we do. It's, hey, call out a safety thing. Well, there's some skin in the game there. There's some actual risk that involves. So if someone calls out a safety problem, it's more sincere. It's, hey, someone could have gotten hurt. Thank you for calling that out. Thank you for keeping us safe. I appreciate you for being focused, for being attentive, for looking for things and being aware. Now that I think about it, you do that all the time when we're in the office. You're super aware and super attentive. So it pulls in those pieces of the connections you see there apply to the connections you have in the office. And that helps people really get to the baseline of giving an appreciation, of being gratuitous and engaging with people. And that's, so Kim Scott and Russell Arway and Radical Candor, like they were talking about, it's a driver of engagement. It's a driver of trust. It's a driver of fun, ultimately. If your team's doing well, you're having a good time. And those are the things that being able to appreciate people and have a system where it is genuine, where it is sincere, that's when it really starts to make progress. I think, and so like, again, as a guy, like I've seen that time and time again, which is amazing to see. I was curious. We've talked a lot about the Hueberman piece, and I know you had some things that you were agreed with, some things you didn't disagree with. Like, what were some of the things that you maybe thought were different? And his is very geared toward gratitude and solely gratitude. So this may be a chance for us to talk about gratitude versus appreciation, because there is a difference.
Yeah. So the Hueberman, I think it's oxymoronic, right? He's talking about appreciation as a tool to make yourself more healthy. And I just don't think of appreciation. It is a gift to someone else. So I don't really care if it makes me more healthy. And it totally makes sense that you get more benefit receiving an appreciation than giving them. He does talk about like writing gratitude lists. I remember my first leadership coach telling me to do that. I remember telling other people to do that. And frankly, like journaling, like a lot of other self help meditation practices that probably would help me, I don't do them. I try them for a week and they fall to the wayside, and I don't write out gratitudes. I do want to call out Meditations by Marcus Aurelius is basically a gratitude journal. Like the whole first chapter is just I'm grateful to this person and this person and this person. So that there's a pretty cool case of using the gratitude journal that's withstood millennia. But he says those aren't that useful, and I agree with that. He just really focuses on like how can you make gratitude or appreciation useful, beneficial to yourself, and I think that's ridiculous. Like the whole point is to help other people, and I think as we do on our trips and I think internally at Caring Leadership, if you use it as a tool for your culture, then you'll receive appreciation. Like you will reap the benefits collectively. The whole team will reap the benefits. But it's kind of like talking about marriage. Like good marriages are marriages in which both partners are giving as much as they can to the other person, not thinking about like how much can I get? Why doesn't my partner give me this? Is how much can I give my partner? And if both people are doing that, it is a strong, resilient, wonderful relationship. Uh, and if both people are thinking like, well, how much can I get? Like, geez, I don't. This sounds like a terrible relationship. So I just thought it was kind of funny to think of appreciation as like a way to benefit yourself. I do think baking appreciation into a culture, into your team's daily, weekly practices is really important. And it's interesting the feedback. One of the books that we recommend is Thanks for the Feedback. And they talk about three types of feedback. There's coaching. I'm trying to make you better. You know, you could do this writing project better, whatever. There's evaluation. I'm just telling you where you stand. Like you're doing great. You're going to get a raise this year, or you're going to get fired if you don't improve your performance. And there's appreciation. And we often like appreciation is never an emergency, right? It's never like, oh my gosh, I got to make like evaluation is. If you need to fire someone, you need to give them evaluative feedback quick so that you can legally comply with HR laws and fire them to get them off your team. Coaching is if someone's not performing a task to where they need to, you need to be giving them coaching quickly. So we're all busy and we forget to appreciate. But I think then, like, if you don't appreciate me for doing something, I'm going to stop doing it. I'm going to wonder for a while, like, does my boss even notice that I do this extra thing? And after a while, I'm going to think, well, it's a lot of extra effort and nobody seems to notice or care. So I'm not going to waste my time doing that. And so you miss out, you lose on these positive things. And then also Vanessa Druskat in Team Emotional Intelligence talks really like two things that drive us are control, a sense of control that makes us feel safe. And that's internal. Like I can control things. I can be an asshole on my team and control things. Not good for team outcomes. Or belonging. And I can't really control whether or not I belong, but if people are proactively appreciating each other, I will feel like I belong. Like if people every once a week or so are saying, "Hey, Knight, I really appreciate this," then I will feel like I belong. So I think it's really important. I'm curious to you, like, why don't we? It doesn't take that much time or effort. It's clearly good. We all hopefully have been appreciated at some point in our lives and be like, wow, that felt really good. Why in the world do we not do this daily? What are your thoughts there? I can't hear you, Nick. I don't know why. I get I got to reiterate to Riverside. I absolutely capital H hate your platform. What the heck? You can hear me, it looks like.